Let us begin. This morning, we said something that we say, by my count, only 42 times a year, and that is the Hallel. I was trying to do the math. How many times a year do we say the Hallel? By my calculation, 42. Here's the calculation. We have the festival of Sukkot, followed by Shmini Atzeres, followed by Simchas Torah. That's 9 days. We have the festival of Passover, 8 days. That's 17. We have twice on the festival of Shavuos, so that's 19. 8 days of Hanukkah, that gives us 27. And then there's Rosh Chodesh, the first of the month. How many Rosh Chodeshes do we have every year? So, of course, Rosh Chodesh is the first of the month, and therefore, if there are 12 months, then you should have 12 Rosh Chodeshes a year. And that's sort of true, and it's only sort of true because one of the Rosh Chodeshes, one of the first of the months, is also Rosh Hashanah. And in Rosh Hashanah, because it's Rosh Hashanah, it's not considered Rosh Chodesh. And we don't say Hallel on Rosh Hashanah. So that leaves us with only 11 Rosh Chodeshes a year. And on one of them we say Hallel, but it happens to also be Hanukkah. And that, in fact, is today. Today is also Hanukkah and also Rosh Chodesh. So we're not going to double count that because we said the Hallel today. So that gives us 10 more days of Rosh Chodesh. And that gives us 10 more. So if you have 27 plus 10, that gives us 37. But half of the Rosh Chodeshes are 2-day events.
Right.
And the reason for that, we all know, of course, is that the lunar month is 29 and a half days. And therefore, the 30th day of every month is always going to be Rosh Chodesh. But half the time, the 30th will be the last day of the preceding month. And half of the time, the 30th will be the first day of the upcoming month. And when Rosh Chodesh, the 30th day is on the Rosh Chodesh is on the 30th day of the previous month, and day 31 is the first of the next month, we have a double Rosh Chodesh. And therefore, the 10 Rosh Chodeshes give us 15 days, or the 10 new months, the new months of the calendar, gives us 15 days for a total of 42 days a year that we say the Hallel. Now, what exactly is the Hallel? The Hallel is a rabbinic mitzvah. During these 42 days a year, to recite a section of Psalms from Psalm 113 through 118. And these are very special Psalms because they're all about praising God. David is praising God and talking about what God did for him and what God did for our people. And on these festive, celebratory days, these holidays, we are commanded, it's a rabbinic law, we're commanded by the rabbinic law to recite the Hallel. And I noticed something over the course of this Hanukkah season that I really wanted to share with y'all today. Something in the Hallel. Psalm 114. Let's examine it closely. Psalm 114 begins talking about the Exodus. B'tzeis Yisrael miMitzrayim, when Israel departed Egypt. Beis Yaakov, the house of Jacob, Me'am Lo'ez, from a people of a different language. So the psalmist is talking about the Exodus. And it tells us some very interesting things that happened during the Exodus. Judah became the Holy One. Israel, his kingdom. So Judah, the Holy One, Israel's kingdom. And then it continues. Hayam Ra'ah Vayanos. The sea, the water, it saw and it fled. This is a reference, of course, to the splitting of the sea. Jewish people are surrounded by the Egyptians on all sides. And they're backed up to the water, and they're going to be slaughtered. 7 days after the Exodus, it's over. Why? Because they are like fish in the barrel, completely vulnerable to the Egyptians. And then a miracle happened. The sea split. And the psalmist here is telling us, Hayam Ra'ah, the sea, it saw and it fled. The sea didn't split, the sea ran away and paved a path, a dry path, amid the walls of water for the people to tread upon. And then it references another event with water. Hayardain, the Jordan, Yisav La'achar. The Jordan runs backwards. Typically, the Jordan runs north to south. From the Sea of the Galilee, from the Kinneret, to the Dead Sea. And the sea started running the opposite direction. And that's when the nation, under the leadership of Joshua, they crossed over the Jordan River. And how they crossed the Jordan River? They didn't ford it. They didn't make a ferry. They didn't make a bridge. The sea split. The waters split. Amazing miracles. Heharim rakdu ke'elim. The mountains, they were jumping like rams. And Givos, the smaller hills, they were jumping like sheep. This is an amazing description of the Exodus. All these amazing miracles. Judah became his holy one. Israel is his kingdom. The sea saw and fled. The Jordan began to flow the opposite direction. The mountains, they were jumping. The hills, they too were jumping. So it's obviously a very intriguing set of passages, of verses. And I want to examine what our sages tell us about these verses. They're talking about Judah. Like, there's something about Judah that was connected to the Exodus. Judah became his holy one. We know that Judah is a very special tribe. The tribe of Judah, that's the tribe from which King David comes from. King David himself. And once King David was crowned as king of Israel, from that point forward, all legitimate Jewish monarchs are exclusively descendants of David. That was what God told Jacob. Jacob prophetically foretold. It was determined that once David was crowned, David, king of Israel, from thenceforth, only the issue of David, only the descendants of David are legitimate kings. If you have someone who's not from the family of David via Solomon, from the tribe of Judah, they are not allowed to be a king. They're not legitimate. And Judah became the Holy One with the Exodus. And then we read how the sea saw, the sea, S-E-A, saw something, S-A-W, and it fled. The sea didn't split. Oh no, the sea fled. There's a very fascinating midrash here that talks about what the sea saw. The sea, it witnessed something, and that's why it ran. That's why it fled. That's why it split. Midrash tells us that the nation had something with them during the Exodus that was so powerful, it prompted the sea to split. And what was that? When the nation departed Egypt, they took a lot of things with them. They took a lot of the wealth of Egypt. Lots of wealth was coalesced in Egypt. And as God promised Abraham by the covenant between the parts, Va'acharei Cain, and afterwards they'll leave with great wealth. After the 400 years of exile, they left with great wealth. And they left with all the animals, and they left with all their children. And they brought one more thing with them. They brought the bones of Joseph. We know that Jacob died in Egypt. Joseph died in Egypt. After Jacob died, he commanded Joseph, and it was indeed implemented. This is the end of Genesis. Take my body and bring it to Canaan, to Israel, and bury me in the cave of the patriarchs. And that's what happened. The very end of Genesis talks about the death of Joseph. Joseph died and was placed in a box, in a coffin in Egypt. But before he died, he adjured the nation, when you leave, don't forget me. Don't leave my bones here. Bring my bones with you. And it was right before the Exodus. It's time to leave, and no one knows where those bones are. The bones are missing. Now, sages tell us that the Egyptians knew that the nation could not leave Egypt unless they had those bones with them. And therefore, they made some sort of enchantment. The Egyptians were expert sorcerers. They made an enchantment that buried the bones of Joseph in the Nile. And Moshe spent 3 days and 3 nights looking for the bones. And he couldn't find them. And there was a really, really old lady around. She was so old, she was actually a granddaughter of Jacob. And she was the one who broke the news to Jacob very gently that Joseph is still alive. She played the music for him. She prepared him for that news. Jacob was 130 years old, and he had been mourning Joseph for 22 years. And if someone jumped at him and said, "Oh, Joseph's alive," he would have died. So she broke the news to him slowly. And she received a blessing that she'll live a very long time. So the nation's in Egypt for 210 years. And this woman, Sarah, daughter of Asher, she's still alive. And she sees Moshe spending 3 days and 3 nights looking for something. And she tells Moshe, "What are you looking for?" "I'm looking for the bones of Joseph." "I know where they are. I remember what happened to them. I was alive at the time." And she brings them to a specific place in the Nile. Here is where they interred and they buried and they sunk the bones of Joseph. And they did some sort of enchantment, some sorcery that made it not possible to be removed. You can't just send your divers, your scuba team to go extract it. You can't leave without the bones of Joseph, and you can't take the bones of Joseph because it's been enchanted. So Moshe did some enchantment of his own. And he placed something in the water, an amulet of sorts, and the bones of Joseph, the box that contained the bones of Joseph, floated up to the top. Moshe retrieved the bones of Joseph. And now the nation is able to leave. They're able to depart. 7 days after the Exodus, they're by the sea. And the sea saw the bones of Joseph. And when the sea saw the bones of Joseph, it fled. That's what the Midrash says. Ma ra'ah hayom. What did the sea see? S-E-A, S-E-E. It saw the bones of Joseph. And that's why it fled. Now, why did he have the merit to split the sea, to have the sea flee? Says the Midrash, something fascinating. Joseph also fled. You recall, Joseph was being seduced by his master's wife, Mrs. Potiphar. And one day she snatched his garments, Vayonas, and he fled. And he ran outside. Even though it was very dangerous to do what he did, and he was exposing himself to being accused, framed for a crime, nevertheless, Joseph fled. Because he fled, the sea fled. In the merit of him fleeing, the sea fleed. Joseph was a vayonas, he fled, vayitzachus, he ran outside. And therefore, the measure for measure, the sea saw the bones of Joseph, and it too, vayonas, it too fled. Hayamra vayonas, the sea saw the bones of Joseph, and it fled. There's a fascinating insight here in the Midrash. In what merit did the nation, did they merit to have the splitting of the sea, the fleeing of the sea? It was in the merit of Joseph. And specifically, Joseph overcoming the temptation posed by his master's wife. We look at what Joseph did, and it's a wonderful act of heroism, of fortitude. You know, he had all the reasons in the world to be bitter and resentful. He's very, very far away from his family. He doesn't have that rock supporting him. He's not around Jacob and any one of his family and co-religionists. And he's in this far-flung place, and he was mistreated severely. And nevertheless, he has the strength of faith to resist, and to resist repeatedly. And when he's cornered, he flees. And that tremendous act of self-sacrifice and of faith and of indomitable spirit, that is in his bones. And when the sea sees that, the sea sees the bones of that one who fled, the sea itself fled. And the nation were able to walk in the path blazed by Joseph's heroism. There was something else that Joseph earned, says the Midrash. If you look at what happened after Joseph interpreted Pharaoh's dreams, Pharaoh showered him with all the trappings of a king. Gave him a ring on his finger, gave him a nice necklace, bedecked him with royalty, marched him throughout the city in the chariot of the king, and gave him all the power. Pharaoh says, I will be just the symbolic figurehead, but the whole nation will be subjected to you. Why did Joseph merit to be a king? Says the Midrash. Because of Joseph's heroism in overcoming the temptation, in not capitulating to the temptation, in that merit, he became a king. And the Midrash goes on further and says, Pharaoh actually gave nothing to Joseph. Everything that Joseph received from Pharaoh, he earned on his own. In the merit of him overcoming this temptation, in him triumphing in this test, he merited two things: the kingdom and the merit to split the sea. He ran away. He fled. He had that strength of character to make himself vulnerable to exploitation. He had the strength of character to run away, to flee. He had the self-sacrifice to run away and to flee. And with that merit, he both earned the rights to split the sea, to have the sea flee, and to become king. And I think that maybe there is a certain cause and effect over here. We know that the evil inclination is known as a king. They just tell us that the evil inclination, it's like almost an alternative for God. God is king of all kings, right? Well, there is a pretender, a usurper. And that's the false God, the faux God, the pretender usurper God, the pitiful king. That's the Yetzer Hara. What happens when someone unseats the foreign God, unseats the pretender king, unseats the usurper king. When someone does that, they earn the right to become a king themselves. You defeated the king. You took a swing at the king and you didn't miss. Therefore, you earn royalty. Moreover, the act of overcoming the Yetzer Hara, it's an act of tremendous strength of character. Because our nature, it's very much affected by our desires that we have and our weaknesses that we have. And someone who overcomes their nature and finds within themselves tremendous fountains of strength and fortitude to overcome the Yetzer Hara, that's like an act of a supernatural act. And when someone supersedes nature, they get the rights to supersede nature themselves. Joseph, you fled, you ran away. The sea just seized the bones of Joseph and it too runs away. That's supernatural. That's a miracle. That's superseding nature. Joseph, you superseded nature. You overcame nature. Therefore, you have the rights and the merit to overcome nature yourself. That's what the Midrash tells us. Joseph fled, the waters fled. Joseph fled, and he became a king. Now, there's a fascinating additional angle in the Midrash. Chapter 114 of Psalms. It's part of the Hallel, right? The Exodus. When the nation left Egypt, when the house of Jacob departed from the foreign land, then Judah became his Holy One. Then Judah became king. Now, what does Judah have to do with the Exodus? And what's the continuation of the verse? Oh, during the Exodus, Judah became his Holy One. Judah became king. Oh, and parenthetically or incidentally, the sea fled. The Jordan turned backwards. It's not immediately clear, A, what is the achievement of Judah with the Exodus, number one, and what's the connection, what's the continuation in the successive verses that, oh, Judah, during the Exodus, he became a holy one. He became the king. And then the sea saw and it fled. The Jordan began to flow the opposite direction. Says the Midrash, I'll tell you what the role of Judah is. We have a hard time thinking about or finding in our head what outstanding role Judah had, or the tribe of Judah had, during the Exodus. We know that Moshe and Aaron, they were from the tribe of Levi. And they were the leaders of the nation. Where did a leader of Judah achieve anything exemplary during the Exodus? So the Midrash tells us something fascinating. Judah indeed is the tribe of the monarchy. Once David was crowned king of Israel, subsequently only the family of David from the tribe of Judah, that's the only legitimate kings. In fact, even the Hasmoneans were viewed very suspiciously by the masses of the nation because they assumed kingship. That's the Hasmonean dynasty, the Maccabees. But they were Kohanim, they were priests, and therefore they're from the tribe of Levi. So they're not really considered to be legitimate kings because only Judah, the tribe of Judah from the family of David, that's the only legitimate kings. When did Judah earn that designation? What did Judah do? What did the tribe of Judah do to be meritorious, deserving of kingship? So the Medrash trying to figure out, says, well, Judah, in the episode of Judah and Tamar, he admitted that he was the guilty party. Maybe that's why he became king. No, that's not it. Well, when Joseph was thrown into the pit filled with snakes and scorpions, and Judah said, "Well, we can't kill him. We have to sell him as a slave." Maybe that's when Judah became a king. No, that wasn't it. Maybe it's when Judah came to defend Benjamin. Maybe that's when he became a king. No, that's not it. Judah became a king. The tribe of Judah became the tribe of the kings during the Exodus. 7 days after the Exodus, the nation was surrounded. Egypt was encircled. Egypt had encircled the nation. And their backs were up against the water. And Moshe's praying. And God says, "Why are you praying? Tell the people to go." Go where? You have the world's most talented and vicious army surrounding you on all sides, and you're backed up against the water. There's a raging sea. Go. Daber el ha'am v'so. Tell the nation to go. So Moshe tells the nation to go. And everyone says, "Well, where are we supposed to go? We're supposed to run into the bayonets? Or we're supposed to run to the raging water? Either way, it's suicide." So everyone was discussing, and everyone was debating, and everyone was saying, "You go first, you go first." And one man, the leader of the tribe of Judah, he jumped into the water. And he started making his way through the water. God said to go, Moshe told us to go, we're going. But there's raging water. We're going anyhow. And the waters, we're told, were very tempestuous. The waters were raging. It was suicidal, but he went nonetheless. He went into the water, and it kept creeping higher and higher and higher. It's by his shins, and then his knees, and his thighs, and his waist, and his chest. And then it's by his chin. And then it's by his nostrils. And he's about to go under. And he cries out to God, "I can't go no further." And the sea split. And the waters fled. And everyone else followed Nachshon, the leader of the tribe of Judah, into the dry land. And that's the reason why Judah, and not any other tribe, became the tribe of the monarchy. And that's why the sea split. And that's what the verse is telling us. Judah, during the Exodus, became his holy one and became the king. Why? Because the sea saw and split. In the merit of whom? In the merit of Nachshon. Judah is the king, in the merit of whom? In the merit of Nachshon. So we have two events that don't seem to be correlated. And the Midrash tells us two things happened to Joseph. The sea split in his merit. He became king. And all that is due to one event, him overcoming the temptations of his master's wife. The sea saw, what did it see? It saw the bones of Joseph, and that's why it fled. Joseph, he became king. Pharaoh gave him nothing. He earned it all on his own. Why? Because he fled and went outside. The sea split. Why? Because there was one man who said, "I'm going to go as far as I could go." And only then will God do a miracle. The waters by his nostrils, and God split the sea. Judah is a king. Why? Because of Nachshon. Not because of Judah, because of Judah's descendant, Nachshon. We see two amazing things here. Joseph earned the splitting of the sea. Nachshon earned the splitting of the sea. Joseph earned the monarchy. Nachshon earned the monarchy. And both did seemingly similar acts. Joseph ran away from the Egyptian temptation into danger. Nachshon ran away from the Egyptians into danger. Both did an act of tremendous self-sacrifice. choosing danger because that's what God wanted of them. Both summoned supernatural strength, and both earned the splitting of the sea and the monarchy. Judah became his holy one. When? During the Exodus. The sea split. In the merit of whom? In the merit of Judah, in the merit of Nachshon. And this is referring to both Judah and Joseph. Now we know, of course, there's some deeper subtext over here. There are really two families of kings amongst our nation. There's that of Joseph, he was a king of Egypt. And there's Judah, they're the king of Israel. And we know that we are anticipating Messiah, King Messiah. Talmud tells us there are two Messiahs. Messiah ben Joseph, the King Messiah from that family, from that tribe. And there's Messiah ben David, Messiah from the tribe of Judah. Two kings, two Messiahs. And the origin story of both of those dynasties are featured here by the Exodus, by the splitting of the sea, are due to these monumental, exceptional acts of bravery and valor and courage. Joseph leaves his garments behind. He flees. He runs outside, notwithstanding the danger. And he suffered tremendously as a result. He was 12 years imprisoned as a result. But that act earned the splitting of the sea, and that act earned the monarchy. Nachshon, everyone is fearful. Everyone's waiting. Everyone's vacillating. Everyone's waiting for someone else to take that tremendous act. He jumps in. He doesn't talk. He doesn't negotiate. He doesn't wait. He doesn't ask. He jumps. The water reaches his nostrils. The sea splits in his merit. Kingdom is given to Judah in his merit. I want to suggest kind of an idea. It's a bit of a subtle idea, but that's where we're at here. What is a king? What is the role of a king? A king is someone who opens doors, who knocks down fences, who breaks through obstacles. A king is described in our literature as the heart of the nation. The heart gives life, vitality, energy, strength to the entirety of the body. A king inspires and gives life and vitality and strength and energy to the whole nation. We could define a king perhaps as someone who inspires the masses to do great things, to aim for very high goals, and to actualize on those most lofty ambitions. A king is a great person, a great leader, someone of tremendous courage and strength of character and valor and bravery and gallantry. And when you have that person to look up to admire, that's a model of excellence that you meaning the masses, that the masses aspire to emulate. There was one man who jumped in to the water. It was suicidal, but he jumped in anyhow. And everyone followed him. Why did everyone follow him? He broke through that resistance. He shattered that resistance. There were obstacles in the way. It's dangerous. It's suicidal. It doesn't matter. He jumps in anyhow. And once he does that, everyone says, wow, we're going to follow him. We're going to follow his lead. So he inspired everyone else to say, we could do it as well. We too can jump into the danger. Everyone indeed followed Nachshon. When you demonstrate to people what they are capable of, what are you doing? What are you doing? There's obstacles, but you shatter them. There's resistance, but you tear it apart. You're tearing apart all these obstacles. That gives you the ability to tear apart obstacles yourself. Why is kingship associated with splitting of the sea. Those are two unrelated things, apparently. A king is someone who rips apart all the things that are preventing progress, all the things that are preventing ascent to greatness. That's what a king does. And other people follow him. And when they do that, they are endowed with the ability to tear apart any other obstacles that may be in their way. A king shatters through resistance, breaks down walls, barriers of resistance, and opens the path. And in that merit, Nachshon was able to split the sea. The sea is resistance. You can't walk. There's just water there, and it's dangerous. It's suicidal. Yes, there are obstacles, but one man can cause them to be opened. That's a king. That's what a king does. A king tears apart obstacles. Now, there's a big difference between Joseph and Nachshon. Joseph's valor, Joseph's heroism, Joseph's strength of character, and Nachshon's. Who was present when Nachshon did his heroic act? Literally the entire nation. There wasn't a single person left behind. Every single member of this great nation was present. In fact, this was like the first time that they were all present. By contrast, Joseph, he was alone. He was by himself. There wasn't another Jew within 500 miles of Joseph. They both did very similar acts, but there's a very different setting to Joseph's act versus to the nation's. And notwithstanding the fact that no one was watching Joseph, his act of heroism and valor, that earned him the right to be king. His act of valor and heroism gave him the merit to split the sea. The sea saw and it fled. What did it see? It saw the bones of Joseph. Even though no one witnessed the heroism of Joseph, it is infused in him forever. It is in his bones. 100 plus years after the Exodus, those bones are still so powerful to cause the sea to flee. Those bones are forever infused by the power of a king, by the power to break apart barriers. Two people had an encounter with Egypt, Joseph and Nachshon. And two people did supernatural acts of breaking through, of overcoming, of resisting, of not capitulating and yielding to Egypt. They ran away into the danger, into the unknown, into the abyss. We too will have our encounter with Egypt. Egypt is symbolic of the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. And over the course of these 42 days, we read about two models of exceptional, exemplary excellence in what to do when we encounter Egypt. Joseph and Nachshon, they both did tremendous acts of valor, and that inspires us to do the same. We read about these people, read about what they did, read about the tremendous continuity, eternality of their heroism. Today, it's been thousands of years since the Exodus. I think by our count, it's 3,336, 37. It's a long time. And if there is a king amongst us, Only if they come from one family are they legitimate. Why? Because of Nachshon, because of his heroism. There is another king, Messiah ben Joseph. And why is that? Why is that legitimate? Because of an event that happened 150 years prior to that event. When someone overcomes Egypt, when someone is able to summon that strength of character, that fortitude, that intestinal fortitude, and being willing to risk everything in order to not yield, to not give in, what they earn lasts forever. And that's an inspiration to all of us. We don't have any teams today, but we have these stories that we read about during these days that we can aspire to accelerated excellence. We read about Judah and the scion of Judah, Nachshon, the forebear of all the kings of Judah. We read about what he did and that led to the splitting of the sea. He tore away the resistance and he was able to tear away the waters. And Joseph, the founder of the other monarchy, he too is a king. He too is someone who inspires us to accomplish fantastic, wonderful, great things. And he too is able to tear away the resistance. These are models for us to emulate. Our life, we're still wrangling with Egypt a little bit. We're still tussling with these other forces. We too have to have our showdown, our encounter with the false god, with the Yetzer Hara. And we have now models of whom to emulate. And I think specifically during these days where we have the greatest opportunity to achieve a quantum leap in our development, let us be inspired by these kings, by these twin monarchs, Judah and Joseph, Joseph and Nachshon. Joseph was all alone. And maybe when we're all alone, we don't think that our actions matter. But until today, the bones of Joseph carry that power with them. And until today, there is monarchy, there's kingship associated with Joseph. And when everyone else was scared, one man jumped in. And until today, that act reverberates the world over. These are days that we're supposed to improve, elevate, upgrade ourselves. And one of the ways that we do that just tell us, is by reading the Hallel. And the Hallel, it's an absolute chock full of delight. There's so much there. Endless inspiration for us. Here's one lesson. The lesson of these tremendous heroes, heroes of our people, heroes who earned a great legacy that is ongoing more than 3,300 years later. My email address is rabbiwall@gmail.com. I look forward to your questions, your comments, and your feedback.